If you had an EDD audit that resulted in an assessment because you have independent contractors that got converted into employees, or your officer compensation was either too low or you didn't report any compensation for any officer owners, here's two things you need to do immediately. You should receive an NOA, which is called a Notice of Assessment. You'll have a date on that Notice of Assessment, or 2 days, and you'll have 30 days, calendar days, to file an appeal with the CUIAB, which is called the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board. This is where you file your appeal for EDD audits. The 2 dates you want to be careful of is the issue date on the NOA and the mail date. Go for the earlier date just to be conservative and make sure you don't miss the deadline, because once the 30 days runs, you cannot file an appeal and a lot of other things then start happening. If you do file a timely appeal, you'll have to provide evidence with your appeal letter, evidence as to why EDD was incorrect. In other words, if EDD converted your independent contractors into employees, provide evidence to show that they satisfied the AB5 test, which is a 3-part element. The first is that you didn't have control over that worker. The second part is that the worker provided services that are different from the hiring company. And the third, that the worker has an independently established trade or business. And that's the more simple one. But what they're going to be looking for on the third element is that your worker has maybe an EIN number, a website, or a Yelp page. They certainly should have a business license. They have to have insurance or something to show that they actually have an established business. Hopefully you'll file all that information accurately and you'll file it on time within the 30 calendar days of the issue date on the Notice of Assessment. And then the next thing you should do, especially if you receive an EDD collection letter, is to contact EDD Collections and ask for a hold on collections. It's kind of unusual because in the past we haven't had to do that. When you file a timely appeal with the CUIAB, collections has always been on hold. EDD in 2024 is now having the practice of automatically starting to collect, which means if you don't respond to them, they could do levies and liens and a whole bunch of other stuff. We disagree with that approach because when you file a timely appeal, the matter is disputed, the balance is disputed, but according to EDD, they're collecting on it. So definitely call EDD Collections. The number you can dial is 888-745-3886. The second thing you should do immediately is also call Taxpayer Advocate Service. Every government tax agency, whether it's IRS, Franchise Tax Board, EDD, or CDTFA, which is the agency in California that collects sales tax, every agency has a taxpayer advocate group, and they're there for you to protect your rights. They're not there to provide any legal authority or any legal representation, but if you have a dispute with EDD and they're collecting on a balance that's being disputed and you timely filed an appeal, I would absolutely call them and tell them, hey, this is a disputed matter. The balance there is proposed. It's not going to be determined until we go to court. The number you can dial for Taxpayer Advocate Service for EDD is 866-594-4177. I urge you to immediately call them, make sure there's no collection activity, and hopefully that'll protect your rights. I'm John Milikowsky, founder of Milikowsky Tax Law. Hope this information was useful.